there's two ways of winning a match, concede less and score more. And really and truly, that's what it always comes down to. Are you conceding too much, or are you not scoring enough? There's no magic, there's no special formulas, in my opinion, now, unless Damien has any. But just actually meant to say, those of you that mightn't know Damien, he's played for Galway there at several age groups. But more importantly, from our end, which is club at the moment, he's a Portumna man, and have won 4 All-Irelands, and Damien was knocking around for the 4 of them. So, he knows what it takes to be the best club in the country. And I know what it's like to be maybe one of the worst ones. So between us, we might be able to give you a few pointers. Anyway, the way I look at things really, lads, if you're involved with a team, most of us probably look back to last year and see when were we knocked out. Because if we're winning all our matches, well, then we don't need to be on this course. We're happy if we're winning. But, most teams lose. So this was just a good few years ago. I just did this little thing on a team I was involved with here. And the previous year we played 27 games. We won 14 of them and we lost 13. So you could say fair enough. But then looking at them a little bit closer, discovered that we lost 6 of them by less than 4 points. And then we lost 7 by more than 3 or 4 points. Now, more than 3 or 4, that could have been 20. So it wasn't going to make any difference. We weren't going to win it anyway. But I've been watching a lot of games, and, I won't say nearly them all, but a serious amount of games are won or lost by less than 3 or 4 points. And if we look at the hurling over the weekend, they're so close, so many of them. And I'd be positively certain that if any of us got an opportunity, to play the game again the next day, we'd certainly be able to point out to where we lost those 3 or 4 points. So that's the kernel of what we're at tonight. That we'll just try and have a little closer look and see, where are we losing those few points. I'm not going to say, you can walk into a team and they're being beaten by a certain club regularly by 10 points, and I'm going to tell you come out and beat them. But what I am saying is there are certain things, and if you get them right, you're going to be competing better, you're going to be getting closer to the stronger teams, and you're going to win a few more matches. And the funny thing about it is, anything I'm probably saying to you tonight, your team, I've often said to teams, I can improve you tonight without any different people playing, without being any fitter, by just people taking a couple of things on board, players, and absolutely putting them into practice. So again, we often look back again and say, right, what happened this last year? We're presuming we were beaten our last match, whatever it was. Was it a windy day? Was that what caused the problem? And look, it can be. The wind can affect some teams adversely. It can mess up matches. Was there an unlucky goal? And that can happen as well. I mean, if we look at Kilkenny and Galway there at the weekend, Richie Hogan's goal, you won't say it was a lucky goal, but there was certainly a little bit of magic. It was definitely against the run of play. You can't legislate for those kind of things. A ball can hop off a lad's head, a ball can go in off a lad's hand, and you can't legislate for it. So that can happen. Like, you could have a team now that are underdogs, and you could put in a very, very good performance and just be that little bit unlucky. So what do you do with that? Well, you chalk it down and you say, lads, look at small little thing, and we could have won that match, we could have won that county final, and you put it into the bank and carry on. Now the next one there, had you got a sending off, well, that's a different thing. That's something you could control. Breaks, we often hear the other boys won the breaks as if it's something you toss for, but breaks are not something you toss for. Breaks are something you go in for. I mean, a team wins the breaks if Damien is up there centre back and a ball lands down on him and it comes down onto the ground and his wing back moves in and whips it and takes it away, and my wing forward is staying out on the sideline and looking in. Well, Damien's player is after winning that break because he or she, if it's Camogie, are after running in for it. So breaks are something you can work on. The only way you'll win breaks is by being in for them. If you don't go in for them, you won't win them. So that's definitely one. Okay, nerves can affect the team. Not enough players on song, and that's an interesting one. And I would often say, I would have thought, to be honest with you, last weekend with ourselves in Galway, I thought if Galway could bring 13 of their players on their A game, I thought that they would be able to beat us maybe well, but it's not that easy to get them on song. Now, there may be reasons, there may not. Maybe they're overtrained, maybe they're wound up too much, maybe they're not trained enough. But to actually get 13 of your players on their A game is not an easy thing to do. Then I have the question there, maybe selectors, maybe the wrong team was picked. Now, the great thing about that is we'll never know, because you'll never get to play it again with a different team. Same with the wrong moves. Maybe the wrong moves were made. Now, all I could say is coaches, guys over teams, and I know myself, I would often look back at matches I lost and I say, yeah, I put the wrong guy in there, made the wrong call, made the wrong decision. What do? You bank it, you note it, and you try not to make that mistake again, but you can't replay it. Okay, sometimes you don't win. I say all times you don't win. I'm being smart here because you didn't score enough. And sometimes we're afraid to actually admit that. We conceded too much, same thing. Or quite simply, sometimes we're just not good enough. And sometimes we're not able to own up to that. A lot of clubs get rid of managers and they blame the manager, they blame the coach, because they're not able to face up to the fact that, look, our team is just not good enough. Like if we're playing down here now, Ballyhale Shamrocks, I suppose 19 times out of 20, they're going to beat us. Why? Because they're a better team, end of story. But that doesn't mean we can't beat them. If we get everything right and we might catch them on the hop, etc. But, there's no point in sacking the manager because we'll say a team like Portumna or Slough-Neil or Ballyhale Shamrocks or something like that are beating you, and to have half a Bloomin' County team playing for them. So clubs have to be, they have to be honest and say, look, we're punching against our weight here. Maybe if we do everything right, we might get a sucker punch in there and maybe knock some of these big boys. All right, so how do we go about things? How do we go about improving this fictitious team? Well, again, very, very simply, identify key areas that you can improve on. Identify them as the first thing, and then go work on them. Now, there's no point in identifying them if we're not going to try to do something about them. And I suppose more importantly, if you don't see them, some things are obvious, but they mightn't be seen. And again, I have it highlighted there. You worry about things that you can control. There's no point worrying about things you can't control. So, areas you don't have control over. Again, the weather, you can't control it. Look, you can't control it. You can't control referees. You can't control injuries. And funny enough, you can't control the opposition. They are what they are. If we're playing, again, Ballyhale Shamrocks, we can't control that TJ Reid plays from Colin Fennelly. We can't control that. Now, we might be able to control how they perform, but we cannot control the team, and so there's no point in getting head up over them. Now, I would say, with those little things you can't control, you park them. That you make sure that your team, they're not going to look out and see, oh God, it's raining. We're bad in the rain. You do away with that kind of stuff. You get your players during the year, park that kind of baloney. Have them convince themselves we're deadly in the rain. And then if it's a sunny day, we're deadly in the sun as well. And those little things can affect players, right? Don't allow them to become a crutch. Now, so you ask the questions of yourselves. Management, players, where are our deficiencies? What are they? What are we weak at? Try and find them out. So again, you've seen that guy before in the old film, the football, the game of inches and the errors, and you can, smallest little thing, the margins. And I would say hurling is a game of millimetres. And again, just to highlight it there, I have JJ Delaney getting a hook and Shamie Canlan back in the All-Ireland a few years ago. That one hook, if he hadn't a hook him, okay, I won't disrespect Owen Murphy, he probably would have caught it anyway, but we'll pretend it would have been a goal. And that would have meant the McCarthy Cup would have gone to Tipperary. One hook. Now, if he had missed that hook, would we identify it as something that lost an All-Ireland on us? Funny little thing as well, and it's a different baby of mine, is Tommy, you're a big full-back again, the jogger, isn't it? Often had the crack with the jogger about his little small hurl, and he's 6 foot fucking 6. If JJ's hurl was an inch shorter there, he wouldn't have reached in, he wouldn't have got that hook off. But anyway, that's another day's work. But there again on the left, hurling a game a millimetre. One hook, one block, one lazy tackle, one drop ball. one reluctance to pass. A guy wins the ball, but he won't pass it. A failure to chase. Any one of those things, guys, can lose a match. And by God, if it happens in the big game, you know, it's you might never get the chance again. So a little thing I would often say to players, if you create a mentality that there's 30 seconds to go, this is the county final, even if it's only the first round, and we're level. There's 30 seconds to go, we're level, county final, which means the next player is going to decide the game. What will you do as a player? Well, you absolutely won't let your opponent get the ball. You definitely won't foul. You'll put it, if the high ball coming down, you'll put your two hands up for the block. You make sure you're not going to be blown. You won't do anything stupid and risky. You know, you won't try and flick a ball over a guy's head. You won't waste one, because you know you want to get that score. If you're on the sideline or in the corner flag, you're not going to have the shot like Tony Kelly did, because you're not Tony Kelly. So you won't waste it. If your opponent has it, you do all in your power to dispossess them or to make it hard on them. If there's an opponent gone away with the ball, you will chase, because there's only 30 seconds left in the game. You'll chase in the hope that he just might drop that ball or slow down, right? You crawl to get a ball, you won't panic. So I often say to guys, if you can play every second of the game with that mentality, that's going to improve. Because what happens in matches? You know, you go down 5 or 6 points, and then the head drops, and suddenly 6 becomes 7 easily. You know, you concede the 6th point easily, maybe the 7th one. And then, Jenny, you get a goal out of the blue. And you end up being beaten by a point. And you look back and say, God, if someone had to tell me that we get that goal, if someone had to tell me when we're down 10 points that we get 3 handy goals in the last 5 minutes, I'd have gone harder for that last ball. And I have suffered with cases like that. You know, I have seen firsthand matches that, you know, guys just give up for maybe 10 minutes during the game and allow a team go from 7 up to maybe 12 up. And then you get a run in the second half and you bring it back and you end up getting beaten by 2. So these are very, very definite positive things that happen. Again, just a little checklist. And I wouldn't have everything here, but I was trying to keep the more obvious ones here, because if you can, you know, if you take that team of yours, if you can sort out 2 or 3 little things, that could be 3-4 points in a match. So, you know, what's letting you down? Well, the 7 essentials of hurling that Damien and myself would agree on are, in no particular order, rising and catching, hooking and blocking, striking, hand passing, and the famous first touch. So are any of those letting you down? Well, they probably all are letting you down. Unnecessary fouls. I guarantee you, guys, every single team you're involved in out there, I guarantee you every match you play, there are unnecessary fouls. And I would say, without seeing any of your matches, there's probably at least 3 of those converted. At least 3, if not more. Leaving opponents loose. Right? You know, a guy, whether he thinks he's too good or he thinks he's too cool or he's just too blooming lazy, and you're leaving opponents loose. Like, how much space does a guy need to hang a ball over the bar? You know, a metre, 2 metres. If I look there, if I look at Limerick recently and I see the amount of space Garrod Hegarty, just to choose one, has been getting, you'd say to yourself, what's going on here? You know, you look at Tony Kelly last weekend and you'd have to say to yourself, he's a brilliant player, but how many times there was nobody with him? You'd have to ask those questions. Not chasing is a huge one. You know, and there's 2 types of not chasing. The first type is the lad that doesn't bother at all chasing. But there's the second one then, is a guy who's chasing all right, but he doesn't really want to catch the lad he's after, that he's only half going. Not supporting. Okay, I'll support 3 times in a row. I'll make the run in. Damien grabs 3 balls in a row and I run in. I don't get the pass. The 4th one then, I don't bother run in. And he's looking to give me the pass and I'm not there. And that is something we can sort. I mentioned already giving up when you're down a few points and allowing, you know, 5 to become 6, 6 to become 7 easily. They're killers. And where these things usually happen is if a team concedes a goal, usually the heads are down very, very quickly in the blink of an eye. You can concede a second one or easily a point. Now, equally so, when you get a goal, a team can drop their guard and think this is great. And while they're praising themselves, the other guys go up and get a point. And that can cost you a match. 2 up for the same ball, that's a big one. Because you have 2 players going up for the same ball. generally, unless the other boys are equally as silly, they might have only one going up, and their guy that stays down will probably pick up that break. Not in for the breaks. Again, ball is dropping between centre back and centre forward. You know, theoretically, one wing forward runs across in front, one runs in behind, maybe a midfielder is watching. So there's 2 or 3 chances of winning that break. But if only one of your players runs in for the break, well, then you've only one chance of winning it. And that's something you can work on. Retaliation after a free. What does that mean? It means you lose the free. It's a throw ball. I can remember a match where one of our guys fouled a player up on the full back line, one of our forwards. And after giving him the foul and the whistle blown, then he had to throw a shoulder into him. For stupidly. What did the ref do? Brought it out 10 or 15 yards. Richie Power came up the field, put it over the bar. From his own. Man, what? Little bit out past the 21. We lost the game by a point. Simple as that. Reluctant to hand pass a ball. Could be a great catcher. He won't pass it. Again, you watch the top teams now, you know, I look at the way Limerick boys are doing it at the moment. You know, they're passing, they don't even think to just give it. Whereas you come down a few notches, come down to the club by, he catches it and he wants to score it himself. He catches it and before he'll pass it, he has to look at the brand on the ball. The top players, it's gone nearly before they have it in the hand. Another big one, the playing tactics that your players are not capable of. You know, expecting your under 14s to be doing what the inter-county seniors are not able to do. And that is a big problem in coaching. You know, we're watching too much television. You're watching Limerick, you're watching Cork, you're watching Westmeath seniors, whatever. And suddenly, yeah, my under 14 team, and they're not able to strike on the both sides, but I still want them playing through the lines. Another simple one, covering a player that's going to get a pass. So I'm in on Damien there. Damien has a ball and he's trying to release it and I'm covering him. But so there's a guy standing 10 yards outside him. A blind man will see that's where he's going to pass it. And one of my men is just looking at him instead of pushing up on him. A very simple thing to sort out. And again, really and truly expect the unexpected. So just to sum up all that, you know, they're all little small different things. If you have every outfield player making 5 extra efforts in the game, and that might be just lifting a hurl up where there's no chance of blocking a ball, but just putting up the hurl to distract the player striking. Every player does that. That's 70 hurls that go up in a game. I guarantee you, if 70 hurls go up in a game that wouldn't normally go up, some player that's striking, that strike is not going to go where it would have gone if the hurl wasn't up. Now that, easily to say, it could be a guy shooting, and the fact that your hurl is up might put him off. But probably more importantly, it could be the corner back that's trying to ping a ball down the sideline, down to a forward. And if you have the hurl in the way, he mightn't put that ball down where he wants it to go, and you might be saving a goal. So Damien, I just bring you in here at this point in time there, if you want to just maybe do a recap or an emphasis on anything we've mentioned there so far.
Yeah, no bother, Martin. I'm up here in the attic at the minute, and I'm afraid for the roof there's such a gale. So if the sound has been interfered there, let me know. I hope it stays on anyway. Yeah, look, it's very hard to argue here with anything that's said. It's all really quality stuff, and I just think with regards to building a club team, you know, you need a serious commitment from everybody, and regardless of what talent you have to work with, you know, you can put KPIs on everybody. The cornerback should be given a role and responsibility, the wing back, and they should be given goals and targets. And if they're all meeting goals and targets over the 70 minutes or over the hour in the club hurling, your percentages come up in quality. I think a lot of it is about a feeder system and creating a good culture. If you have a good positive culture there in your club, you know, there's going to be a feeder system of positivity. And another key thing there that, you know, we did as a club for years was holding the group accountable, and the group holding the group accountable as well is another big one. So, you know, any night anyone is missing or whatever, you know, you have to step into a circle and you have to explain where you were. And I think that's all good practice, and it just builds culture. And you know, you mentioned there about concentrating on your circle of influence. You know, that's all you can control. So I think a lot of teams and managements and clubs become bogged down with the stuff they can't control. So controlling what you can control, I took that there out of what you said. The 5 extra efforts is there in front of us, lads, on the screen. And ladies, I didn't look at the attendance list there now, but I'm sure there's ladies on as well. But the 5 extra efforts there from each player, that's 70 more hooks and blocks a game. If you can get somebody up to that target, so that's a goal for every player outfield, minimum of 5 hooks, blocks, tackles. And now the efforts become 70, and you're obviously restricting scores for the opposition at that stage, and you're obviously feeding into a very positive performance for yourself with work rate. So that's kind of it for now, Martin. But yep. Maybe one more thing there before I finish is I see a lot in hurling now, and especially in clubs, the whole proliferation there of strength and conditioning, and all these young fellas and their bodies are well built, and then they want to put them to the test in the games, and they want to engage every bloody tackle God made. But I think how we worked in our club there for years was we didn't engage the tackle. It didn't matter who was built or who wasn't built or who had what gym session done. A definite style of play for us in Portumna would be moving the ball fast and not engaging the tackle. And maybe everybody would go on to having a possession for 2 seconds and they had to move it on. You get your ball in training, you get a 2-second rule, move your ball. So just if clubs went on to those sort of thoughts and managements went on to those sort of positive thoughts, I just think the game of hurling would flourish.
Thanks very much, Damien. Just to pick up on the last point Damien made there about engaging and, guys looking to get the shots in. Maybe 2 years ago, I was invited to a game. I'd say it was up in Donegal, and I was invited to watch a game, and I had to go in and talk to the teams after, and I think maybe do a session with one of them maybe a few days later. But I went to the game with certain things in my head, and I kind of said, right, I'm gonna be telling the boys this, that, and the other after. But when I watched the game, I was absolutely blown away, because most of the things that were in my head that I thought these boys wouldn't be able to do, for example, catching a ball and striking without moving first and getting blocked and hooked. Maybe when they had the chance to look up and put the ball maybe across the field, they were doing all those things. They were absolutely very, very good, and some outstanding players on it. But the one thing I said to the 2 teams after was, guys, if I had my own team playing and doing 90% of the stuff you're doing, I'd be quite happy. But I says the one thing that stood out a mile for me was, I says, if you could take 20% of the physicality out of it, you would be so much better. Because what they were doing was, if a guy hit the ball, they'd have to give him the shot after he hit it. Now that's a free and that's a point, right? They had to plough into the tackle, maybe when the wiser thing was to stay out of it and flick on the ball. Those kind of things. And again, thinking it was being manly. And then if you have a clown on the sideline, bury him, get stuck into him, they're all points against you. Now, there may not be a point in your own county, depending on how the referee is blown. But when you get out and you get into provincial championships, etc., they're going to be blown right, left and centre. Other little thing, Damien, if you remember, he won't mind me asking him this now, I hope. Damien, your club, after playing the first 2 rounds this year, above in Portumna, I watched them on television, and you mentioned something to me about what your team needed to be doing to be able to maybe win another Galway championship. Do you recall that?
Maybe remind me, Martin, please.
Okay, well, you told me you needed to be scoring so much in games. Yeah. How much did you think you needed to be scoring, roughly?
Just when you'd be looking around scores that are winning games in the club championship in Galway there, you roughly, up around 25 or more points a game. Okay. But I absolutely remember what you said to me, yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, what did I say to you, Damien?
You said, that would have been, as a coach, that would be a goal or a target. I would have set for players that, we'd have to be over the 20 points for sure to be competitive, and up around the 25 or more to win. But you sort of turned that on its head in conversation with me after one of those club championship games, and you said to me, that it wouldn't matter what you would be scoring if you concentrated on the defensive side and restricting the opposition from scoring, restricting the amount of fouls. I think that's the general.
Yeah, that was it. That was it in a nutshell. You see, I said to you, Jenny, you have Joe Canning on that team, and you had the other chap full forward. What was his name that scored 6 points from play?
Yeah, Ronan O'Mara, yeah.
And then you had a few other boys that were handy. And I said, Jenny, when you have forwards like that, I wouldn't in the slightest be worried about what you're going to score. But I said, in my opinion, what was beating you was what you were conceding. And you were conceding scores that, you know, for various reasons that we've listed here that you didn't need to concede. Plus, the big one, of course, was in the 2 matches, he ended up with 13 players in the field.
Yeah. Jeez, Martin, I'm going to go off the call here now shortly.
You couldn't get a better example. But anyway, we'll as they said in the late years ago, we'll roll it on here, Colette. Right. There wasn't supposed to be music there, boys, on that one. Anyway, it was just a little what do you call it? A visual that we've been using for quite a while now, Damien, myself. It's going back to these essentials. You know, the raising, the catching, hooking and blocking, striking, hand passing, and the first touch. And I can guarantee you, guys, you look at your games and everything comes back to these things. You look at your matches and I guarantee you, you're losing your games, the ones you're not winning. You're losing them because somebody can't hand pass properly or messes up a hand pass. Somebody can't catch properly. And I'm not talking about the big high catching. I'm talking about a hand pass fired out to a lad and he drops it. I'm talking about raising the ball and it falling out of your hand. Striking, all the levels of striking. Either not able to strike on the 2 sides, either not able to strike far enough, or not able to strike accurately enough, or not able to strike accurately to a player that's on the run. And these are all things, guys, in your control. And that, to me, is coaching, that you're watching your training sessions, you're watching your matches. It's not a bad idea to have a lad with you that you might give a shout to him, take a note of this. Right, Damien, poor on the left, Martin, dropping ball. And, you know, you use that then to go back and determine what you're doing in training. I'm positively certain, guys, that, I mean, Tommy, the couple of visits I had up in Westmeath there a few years ago, the first thing that stood out a mile for me, I remember saying it to Brian Hanley, first thing that stuck out a mile for me was the striking. And, you know, and how the striking could be improved. And by God, has it improved since? Of course it has. But for me, as an outsider looking at that first match, I think actually we're playing Coleman in a challenge match. The striking. And but anyway, so everything all is biased back to that. Now, I just call this match analysis, but it's not, maybe analysis is a bit strong of a word for it. But you look at your games and you say, right, who's doing the fouling? Is there a player or 2 or 3 or 4 that are doing all the fouling? And you know what? By and large, they are. By and large, there's a few players, I only fouled twice. But if every outfield player fouls twice, that's 28 blooming freeze, lads. So, to me, you look at that. And then you look at who's creating the scores. It's one thing to be scoring it, and who's scoring it, that's important because, you know, you need a striker. If you have a striker, and it mightn't be good at anything else, but if they're able to put that ball over the bar, well, I'd be inclined to keep that player on. Now, there mightn't be the player that's able to win ball for you, but they might finish it for you. So you want to be aware of all that. Now, who's creating the score? Who's winning the ball? Who's laying it off? That's important. Sometimes that player doesn't get picked. But when you don't pick that player, suddenly the striker is not striking. So these are simple enough little things if you open your eyes. Other side of it, who's creating scores for the opposition? You know, why? Are they just not marking up? Are they giving away the frees, making it easy for their opponents by not pushing up on them? Watch for those things. Number of wides. Okay, and I never mind a wide so long as the shot is taken from a place where you have a reasonable chance of scoring. I would say before a player shoots, they should have a 70% chance of scoring it. And if it goes wide, I say hard luck, keep at it. But if I see a guy trying what Tony Kelly was at, I'd be saying that shouldn't be happening. So, you know, the number of wides and why. And look at, some days they just don't go over. And you say to your players, look, boys, they didn't go over, girls, they didn't go over today. You didn't do anything foolish. You weren't shooting foolishly. So keep doing it. Little things there. Possession from line balls. Are we getting any possession? You know, and some boys are trying to score that old point from the line ball, and most of those go wide and they're landing on the other square, where I often say a bad line ball is often better than a good one because it's still in play. Frees and puck outs. You know, can we, you know, it's not easy when you're on puck outs. It's easier for the opposition because all they have to do is beat them down. But can we, you know, can we get 10% more of them? Same with frees, same with line balls. Haven't got it there, but short puck outs could be killing you. And I'd have a big bone of contention with short puck outs. So again, really and truly, identify your weaknesses and identify your strengths. Again, we've mentioned them already. How are the tight games lost? Is it anything to do with those 7 essential skills? And I guarantee you it is. I guarantee you. Players are not able to block. They're not able to hook. Why? Is it your fault or is it the coach's fault? Well, generally it's both. It's the player's fault for not doing it in their own time. It's the coach's fault for maybe not doing it in training from time to time and emphasising it to the players. Number 5 there, rising. Lads, you would be surprised how many games are lost because adult players, not to mention underage players, fail to raise the ball. Why? Because most of them don't practice it. Again, I would practice rising in every single session in some form. And that's from under 10 right up to inter-county senior. Hand passing, all of these things, guys, will let you down. Okay? And all of those things there can be improved on. Now, can you see the change? Can you see the difference? Can you measure the improvement? You can't really. But, you know, I suppose you could actually. You could look out at a match and you could have some of these guys that are good at watching stats and say, right, how many times did we fail to make a jab lift or a roll lift? And, you know, I find that even in the drill, where you're doing ordinary roll lift and jab lifting, the amount of guys that drop a ball, you could say, right, I often count them and I say, right, we're doing 5 press-ups for every ball that's dropped. And after maybe 5 minutes, you're saying, right, there's 10 balls after being missed. That shouldn't be happening. Now, those were what I call the standard skills, right? And we look at those and say, right, that's what's catching us. But then I have what I call the not so obvious ones. For example, fitness. And of course, fitness, wow, fitness could be costing you 5 or 6 points a match, right? Now, you have to get, Damien touched on it there, you have to get the balance right. You know, and depending on how much time your players are given to the game, if they're not given much time to it, that wouldn't be your case in Westmeath, but you go up the country farther, you know, players might be only given an hour a week to hurling. So there's no point working on fitness if they can't strike the ball, if they can't strike off of both sides. So that hour, you know, it's about managing the time that you have with the players to the best. Shooting again, that could be catching you, but that's striking. Reaction, there's a hidden skill. You know, all guys are not reacting. I'm marking Damien in a match there, and I'm actually faster than him. I maybe wing forward on him, and just Damien, the ball is about to be hit, and Damien is gone. I'm wondering where he's gone. The next minute he has the ball in the hand, and I'm still looking at him. Why? Because he looked up the field and he saw the way the guy with the ball was facing, and he says, "This ball is coming to the right," and away he went. I couldn't react as quickly. The breaking ball, so you can coach that. Not fouling is a huge skill. All right, picking up breaks, we mentioned it. The work rate, we mentioned it. Positional play. You know, I can catch us. There are times, for example, in the backs to spread out, maybe stand a little bit off your men. Oh, then, by God, there are times when you absolutely mark tightly. And those things can be catching us. Well, let's say a ball is going into the backs, going in. If I'm a wing back and it's going in over my head, and I turn and I race back in to help out, and the man I'm marking stays out the field, and the ball is cleared under a bit of pressure, he gets it, pops it over the bar. Now, whose fault is it? Was it my fault for leaving him and going back into cover? Or was it the wing forward on my team's forward for not seeing that and pushing up and picking him up? That's hugely important. When not to pull, you know, the ball drops between two lads and lads off flake, and you give away the silly free instead of maybe just flicking the ball. So I asked the question there, you know, how do your players rate in all those things? Now, I'm probably putting up way too much here tonight, but, you know, if you pick 2 or 3 of them, and you says, right, we'll zone in on these things now for the next couple of weeks. A few more. Puck outs. You know, are we getting best value from them? Trees, line balls, tackling, attacking, defending, support play, forwards moving, or usually forwards not moving. Again, you watch the good teams, you couldn't put a glove on some of these forwards because as soon as you blink your eye, they're gone. The quality of the ball to the forwards. Now sometimes you can't give them a quality ball because you're lucky to be able to hit it in the first case. But if you do have the chance, can you look up? Can you play it to where the guys like it? And again, if you look back at what's the corner forward, the Limerick Galan, is it? A couple of matches ago there, he was getting ball and there was two guys marking him. That just popped out to the side of him there. Out he went, picked them all up over the bar. Now, how did that happen? It happened because whoever was hitting it into him, I think it was against Tipperary, off up at wing back, there was no one picking him up. So the guy that was delivering the ball, he could pause for a moment, have a look up and see what way Galan was heading and pop it in front of him. Now, if there was a wing forward on the other team hanging out of that wing back, not letting them strike, that ball would be hit under pressure, and definitely then the two Tipperary boys would have taken it. Now, I have down there, what about the quality of ball to the backs? Well, the poor old backs don't get that privilege at all. The backs have to take it whatever way it comes. So I'm being very sarcastic here, and I wipe out that one about the quality ball to the forwards. I say, whatever way it comes in, boys, go win it. DJ Carey always had a great statement about the type of ball, good ball and bad ball to the forwards. And DJ often said, the only bad ball to a forward is the one that doesn't come in. You could have a little glitch there, your forwards, they're not inclined to take on the backs. And that doesn't mean they should always take them on, but there are times when there's a goal on, take on the back, go at them. Fast delivery sometimes is the key. Fast delivery will definitely do away with a lot of this blanket defence and old sweeping and that stuff. So the question is, can you improve? So now, guys, I'll stop the clock there for a moment and we'll take questions. So, Damien, if you want to line up a few lads, I'll just stop sharing this and we'll be able to see each other.
Yeah, no problem. Anyone there who wants to come in, lads, or ladies, put up your hand there and we'll get you in.
And there's a prize for every question, lads. The best question are going to get a prize after. Tommy Gallagher's going to give a signed hurl there to the best question. Anyway, anyone putting the little paw up there, lads? There's one up there.
Yeah, Dennis or Tom Murphy. Tom Murphy's looking to come in there, lads.
Yeah, can you hear me, lads?
We can, yeah. Tom.
Okay, I'm just curious. I suppose I've been involved in coaching underage, and just on the point of rising the ball, right, and that coaching, and you're always drumming into the underage lads, 2 hands on the hurl, 2 hands on the hurl. They're watching the games on television, and including the club games, senior games, and it's all the lovely one-handed rises, and it looks great. And that's what they want to do, and especially as you start going to 17, 18, that age category, So what are you coaching the best adult teams and the most skillful adult players? Like, do you just let them do what they want, or do you coach them 2 hands or 1 hand, or what are you coaching the top teams?
Go ahead there, Damien.
Good man, Tom, and good question to get us going. If you go back to child, Tom, I think you mentioned child there at the start. Like, best practice is going to be the 2 hands, and you get them to bend the knees, engage the lower body, get down low, and secure the possession there as quickly as they can. So you're definitely on best practice. I'd be saying, working the 2 hands where the thumb is down near the boss or on the tape of the hurley, and you're securing possession. You're getting them to bend and engage the lower body, as we said. I wouldn't be worrying about going on to the 1 hand ever. That's a natural progression, I feel, from a player. The more confident and competent they get, that evolves itself. But I suppose we all know situations where the top inter-county elite player should have had 2 hands on the hurl too, going down for the ball in a ruck. He'd have came out with it quicker than trying to slobber with 1 hand. So it's actually a very good question, but just to definitely answer you, I'd be saying get good practice into the child. It's a 2-handed lift, and the top third will always evolve quicker than the middle and bottom thirds in ability.
Thanks, Damien. Yeah. Tom, my take on that would be, and it comes up very, very regularly, and some coaches even fall out over it. My take on it would be that you coach the players. I'm not even going to say the children, because to me it doesn't matter whether they're under 12 or inter-county senior. You coach them in all the lifts. 1 hand, 2 hands, half a hurl, full length hurl, every kind of a lift. Because whatever you say or I say or Damien Coleman says, they're not going to do it anyway. They're going to do their own thing, you know, from time to time. So they might as well be good at it. Now, having said that, I would hop off of the young lads in particular. I'd hop off of them for going with the 2 as often as possible. And I would try and show them, even when they're practicing the drills, I'd try and show them that, look, guys, if you're picking everyone with the 1 hand 100% all the time, carry on. But you'll find and see in practice, they're not. And if you can, even in games, you know, even in a little game when they're playing among themselves, that you can point to examples there. Look, if you go down with the 2 hands, you'd have got that ball. Now, bring in then the mucky pitches and the long grass and all the more reason. And at inter-county senior level, and I had a clip somewhere, but I lost it, in the All-Ireland semi-final there a couple of years ago. It was Clare and Galway, I think, Damien. The drawn match. One of the Clare backs ran across in front of the goals about 30 yards out and missed with a blooming jab lift. He missed the ball. One of the Galway lads ran in behind him, picked it up over the bar. Draw match, Galway won the replay. So there was an inter-county senior, for the sake of going down with the 2 hands or being sure of the lift, placed in All-Ireland. Now, I often relate back to, in my own experience, stands out a mile JJ Delaney. Okay, he's running out the field, might go with the 1 hand, but if he's going back towards goal where you just cannot risk the miss, you know, if you're going back towards goal and you go with the 1 hand, any little forward at all can come in, kick it, tip it on, and it's a goal. Where you just, whatever about it being slower, you just have to get over that ball and make sure you get it. So we'll take on then the next one there, Damien.
Dennis, I think Dennis Greville had his hand up there.
Okay, Dennis.
I did indeed. No, just I suppose one of the things I've noticed in, like, we all know how kids develop differently, and some are better and are quicker at picking up things than others. I suppose generally what I would have done with games is the lads that you know that's fit to do it, you'd never stop them trying it. Yeah. But the younger lad that's that little bit weaker at it, you'd let him try it in the game, but you'd have a chat with him during the game to say, look, go back to the 2 hands, go back to the basic, and we'll work on it again. So because you don't want to knock their confidence. Every child wants to be DJ Carey, or they wants to be Joe Cann. They want to be that player.
Yeah.
But they just haven't developed that much. They could be 6 months behind the other guy, if you understand what I mean. So
that's 100%, Dennis. You know, and that's very relevant to nearly all the skills, that you give them the chance to use them, and if you get an old chance, then privately you explain to me, Martin, Jenny, you know, you're a bit slow on the strike there. You'd be as well off letting it off quicker, and that's excellent advice. And I would find, even, you know, especially younger players, there's always going to be strong players against them. And I would be pushing with a lot of them the ground hurling at a certain time. I said, if I'm marking a fella and he's just a top player on the other team, and if I stop the ball and I go to rise it, a good chance he's going to come in and fire me out of the way and take the ball. Whereas in that occasion, if I just control it, whip it away on the ground, I'm keeping JJ Delaney out of the game. So it's about all those things you're saying there, Dennis, for certain. Thanks for that.
Now, thanks, Dennis. Martin Williams is coming in there.
Okay, Martin.
Yeah, no, just about you were saying foul and when to foul, when not to foul. Like, it's come more and more. Like, it has been there over the last few years, but you take, say, with Kilkenny and Galway the weekend. Like, Kilkenny definitely stopped them a chance of 1 or 2 goals at a vital time in the game. It's coming more and more into the game. And look, I would have played full back, so some of the time you were the last line of defence, you had to foul him.
You were slow, Martin.
What?
You were slow, Martin. That's all that's wrong with you.
I leave Martin alone now. I like what Martin is saying.
But, and even,
Martin, just be clear on one thing there now. I did not say when to foul.
No, but you were saying which lads are fouling. What you were saying is, you know, which lad fouled and which lad didn't. Like, some of the time, as from a fullback, you're telling them, look, some of the time you have to foul.
Well, you called Martin.
I've also, you know, with more yellow cards been given out. Like, yeah, played in championship, won them, but like, I know I played in a team that was, you had 6 backs that played together, And some of the time, a fella had to go meet a fella, and he had to take a yellow card for it. But then you'll be going back in, let him turn around and say, I can't go again. If he comes again, you have to go.
Martin, were you on as the slasher or were you on as the Moan Bar?
No.
Anyway, listen, all joking apart. Right. What I would say, lads, for a start is, okay, if the goal is, if it's definitely going to be a goal, okay, none of us like to see fouling when we're watching matches, but we're not watching at the moment, right? We're coaching. When it's definitely going to be a goal, you have to foul and take your chance then with the penalty. Now, big problem happens though. Guys will foul when the chances of a score are slim. Now, once you commit that foul, nowadays the chances of the score then are probably 90%. So this is where they have to judge it. And if I had a hair on my head for every time some of our lads give away a free where there wasn't a hope in hell of a score, I'd have a head like Damien Coleman. Now, you know, the rules then are what they are. And okay, we'll say our guy there against Galway, you know, there should have been, but the rules don't account for it. There should have been a penalty goal against Hugh Lawler, or it should have been sin binned. But, you know, within the rules, what can you do? But the big one to me, Martin, is to do, and I'm going to have a few examples of them shortly, is to do away with the unnecessary foul or the foul that's not for the betterment of the team. Now, I'll give you a little example.
It's like a
2 years
lazy
ago,
foul.
down in Laois, I think it was Ballinackill were possibly playing Rathdowney. It was the semi-final, and the game was nearly over, and Ballinackill were up 2 points, and the centre forward broke in, past the centre back. Okay, centre back turned around, and he didn't chase him. Okay, and he threw the hurl. Centre forward went in, took a shot from point blank range, but Jenny and the goalie saved it. And then the referee, allowing the advantage, gave the penalty. And the penalty was scored. And the boys were knocked out. Now, if the centre back had to trust his goalie and chase back, right, not throw the hurl, goalie was after saving it, he would have picked up that ball and cleared it. So it's about getting the call, you know, unless that free has to be given away, unless, you know, and I would even say not even a point. I would say even if the player is likely to get a point, I still wouldn't foul him because you're going to get the free. You're going to get the point from the free anyway. So I would say unless you are 80% sure that there's going to be a goal. That make any sense to you?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
but it's coaching them to do when to do it and when not to do it. Like some of the time you'll have a wing back, a fella gets round him and he'll pull him. It's a lazy foul.
Yeah. They're the ones. Okay, guys, we'll drive off again for more there now. We have Brian Murray there. Brian,
Brian Murray. Brian is coming in there, Martin.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, just a question there, lads. You seen there last weekend there, the match Waterford and Limerick, the amount of rucks that happen in matches now. And how can we get out of that? If you can recall the match there in the first half, I think there could have been 5 or 6 rucks. Is there any way of trying to coach younger lads out of that?
Yeah. Well, you see, I blame the coaches because I'm seeing and I'm watching, and coaches are all now, get stuck in, win the dirty ball. I hate those words, this dirty ball. And what's happening is there's 2 or 4 players in tackling away, and suddenly the next 2 more come in and 2 more come in. And all they're doing is knocking the ball away from their own men. Where I would be saying 2 things, in particular for forwards. Get in and kick that ball on, flick it out, and then get out after it. Okay, you can say backs need to slow down the ball and kill it, and that's a fair enough statement. But equally so, I would say, right, if I'm playing a match and there's 4 boys in there rooting for a ball, now if I go into that ruck, that's a bloody lottery, lads, who's coming out with it. So one of the opposition could come out with that ball, and straight away he's in on goal, right? So I went far better off staying out of that and picking up the guy that's coming out of the ruck. Now, on the other hand, it could be one of my players has it. And he's being half held. And if I am standing outside the ruck, he can throw it out to me and away I go. So that would be my view on it. Damien, do you want to throw a thought on that?
Just for a second, Martin. I think it's a very apt question there from Barry. All the coaching now is possession. Get it in your hand. a five, you know, with one hand, a little stick past 5 meters, another little stick past 20 meters. Like, I think somebody soon in the game of hurling again is going to say, well, what was wrong with ground hurling, lads? It served awfully fierce well in the 90s. And, you know, would we get back into beating teams by moving the ball early, moving it fast, and letting everybody win his own battle? It's kind of, I see coaching there now a lot of protectionism. We have the ball. You know, it's not a game of rugby where you have to put 25 possessions together before you get over a line. We have to trust the lads further up the field. So, you know, it's hurling through the lines, it's heads up hurling, it's possession games, it's holding on to it as long as you can to get into a scoring position. But I would look at Barry, not too many would agree at the minute, but somebody's going to come with a new way of or even repeating an old way of playing the game, and now that'll become mad then. But I just think this ground hurling is neglected. If you're going in for an early ball, would you not let fly, move it on 40 or 50 yards and let the next lad worry about it? But Martin did say it's us coaches that are ruining it, to be honest.
Well, Damien, I'd be 100% with Damien on that. And I know for certain back when our lads were strong, the last thing some of our boys wanted was a lad to come in and whip the ball on the ground. You know, a lot of, and I won't name them, but a lot of our stronger players, and they have a nice few medals in the pocket now, they wanted the ball stopped, they wanted it held up because they were big, strong and powerful, and they walk in and they'd fire lads out of the way or they'd block them and hook them. The last thing they wanted was some knacky little fella come in, whip it on and be gone. So it's really about getting the mix. You know, unfortunately, when you talk about ground hurling, people think, oh, they want me to hit every ball on the ground, but it was never that way. And I go back and look at Offaly, and I remember discussing this with Dermot Healy that was managing them all those years ago, and people had the impression Offaly were hitting every ball on the ground. No way were they hitting every ball. They'd catch ball as good as anyone, but they'd hit it when they should hit it on the ground. But we're going to come to that anyway now in a few moments, so we'll move on here.
Sorry, man, just for a second, I won't delay it, but I went, as I was saying, they went back doing a bit with our own seniors this year after a few years away from it, and there'll be about 11 of our lads now under 21 on our senior team. Everyone, we had a mass exodus all at the same time. But I was, you know, we're a few nights here dedicated a bit of ground hurling. Just young lads aren't able to hit it on the ground, lads, and that's the honest to God. And I called them in there one night. I got fierce frustrated, and I said to them, just lads, you know, did you ever do this before? And the answer was they didn't. So it's the coaching that tells me that coaches in our club for a decade neglected that in young lads, youths, and now they're adults and now they're not able to perform that skill. So maybe if we got that sorted out of the call tonight, we'd have a lot done. Sorry, Martin.
No, that's 100%, Damien. 100%. So let's look at, we can chat at the end now a bit more. I just have a few videos here. In recent weeks, the old videos are working well. Earlier in the year, when we're doing the webinars, videos weren't showing up well at all, depending on people's connection. So I hope they're reasonable. So all I have here is a couple of clips just to try and point out some of the things we're talking about. But really and truly, it's not that I have any answers or Damien has any answers. It's really about you going down and watching your team, watching your players, and spotting a few little things that you're saying, yeah, that can be improved on, and then going on and doing something about it. Now, right, so again, with the clips that we're just going to look at, again, fairly simple. You know, what do you see? And you might see one thing, I might see something else, and that's okay. Definitely, I often do a little workshop there, and I ask lads, what do you see? And everyone will come up with something different. You could have a 20-second video clip, and there could be 10 coaching points in it. So I'm just saying to you, we're going to look for good examples, maybe bad examples, things that you could work on. Little question there, you know, when to show a little bit of video and when not to. Well, for certain lads, and I'd be into this crack, but I wouldn't be into pulling players in for an hour after every match or even after every second match and showing them video. I'd be into 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I'd be into showing them maybe, lads, here's 20 stupid frees you gave away there in the last few matches. I might be into maybe pulling a player aside on his own or 2 or 3 of them and saying, boys, look at, here's, you're not giving the old ball out, you're not passing it. So simple enough stuff. And oftentimes, with good examples and bad examples, oftentimes this is well to be shown other teams, not your own one. So you're not embarrassing anyone. So you look at some of the big matches of the weekend there and record them there, and even take your old iPad or your phone and just video the flipping television. And it'll do. I have a couple of them coming up here to show you. You don't need any big fancy video analysis software. Okay, right. So what I'm looking at here, and I have the video there is as big as I can make it, but I might as well read down through the notes on the left as to what's going to happen in this and the reason I put them together. And I pause it as we're going along. But first of all, first one there, defender is going nowhere, and there's a foul. Okay, loose man, a long ball and a break. So I'll just drive on this. And this is All Ireland semi-final club. It's Ballyhale, Shamrocks, and Schlockneil. And I would contend after that game, and I thought it going into it, that Schlockneil could have won that match if they didn't concede a few frees that were needless. And bear in mind, there was a point in that game with about 2 minutes to go, and Colin Fennelly got a kind of a breakaway goal. But, you know, let's watch. Right, so that
Joey Holden at Hamlanos, couple Schlitter, Hartresh Machtestachenson, Guffa.
No, again, there you go. Yeah.
Joey Holden at Hamlanos, couple Schlitter, Hartresh Machtestachenson, Guffa. Agus Hartresh up a hurlower fall, reading is Cian Moore Green, meets na hard, Edro Fennelly.
Break.
Well, Asheshin Bolta knows to get Owen Reid. No Vola, son.
No. There's a foul.
Son, oh,
there's another one. He let it play on.
Yeah, on a score there, Fod. The Vui Christy McKaig on pucks there on Shane off Reel on beat.
Fight to Hernash.
No, what's this one?
Dyson son who chew the drum mullen.
I'm going to pause it there. Look at the score, lads. Schlockneil were 2 points, Shamrocks were 0. And Schlockneil were very good value for it. It was up at the game. What happened there, lad in the red helmet, Adrian Mullen, he released the ball, number 9 for Schlockneil, he gave him the jolt. You know, and that was the first point Shamrocks got. If he didn't give away that free, the teams would have been level going into extra time. You know, what would that have done for Schlockneil? So, you know, you wouldn't get a better example than that. Now, that was number 3 there on the left, the needless shoulder. The next one here, a foul wasn't blown. But, you know, sometimes they're not blown, but they're frees. And, you know, you got to do away with those.
Tassa Horta, Adrian Mullen, Anshin, Forshe, Hoolan, Coolhan.
Now, watch it here. Watch the arm in your nose.
McKaig off her son, Stachadro, Shane McGuigan. Shane McGuigan of Crummet, Sure. Of Ballyhale. Command Soldier, Edirig, Stutter Hard, Edirig.
Quick hand pass. There's the quick hand.
Shahuin, Cora, Lion, Les Shefflin. Pass live at O. Shefflin, Roher. Can't take a Dassy Stigginson, the male of Voida, Egga Shane McGuigan. To Ration, sorry, get Christy McKay, captain the forna, Tour face, score, August Shin, score, Bjorn, son of captain the forna, Christy McKay.
Here's Damien.
Ach, Nachtamon, again, Vaxahoma.
2 scene to go, Schlockneil on show, Christy McKay, Tourt on Cocky Talk, as Haragulan, as Hot Goody show.
Ryan Cassidy, Marshalish, and Buckslash, Stach, Edro, Emil Avoided, Turkins, Avoided, fan, fighting shame, Avoided.
Yeah, Puck Slassie, Eat of the Stock O'Brien Cassidy on Shane, Rish on Lee Road. It's just pouring Shea on Lee Road, TJ can score all on a puck in the there.
What's the foul on?
Kimid and Kalish and so Harish Douglas.
Pulls the arm. There you are. Now again, that last one there, guys, the guy in the yellow helmet there, Owen Reid, out near the sideline. He didn't have a point right there. He had a huge amount of work there if he was going to get a point. But your man just caught him by the wrist, ref copped it, TJ puts the ball over the bar. So, you know, there's whatever. There's 2 minutes of video there. We could spend the whole night on it. But the couple of points, the ground goal, lads. The ground goal, Damien mentioned it earlier. Now, if you watched the Wexford match the other day, Lee Chin came in at one stage and there was a ball hopped in front of him in the very same position and he didn't connect with it properly. To me, 2 reasons possible. They don't practice it. Second reason, I'd lay a pound on it that his hurl is short. I'd lay a pound on it as a 34-inch hurl. And because of that, you won't get the same strike. And I'd have a bee in my bonnet about, younger lads maybe using hurls that are too long, but a lot of teenagers and adults that are over 6 foot, they're using hurls that are too short. So they can't reach. They're missing rises because they can't reach them. They're definitely missing ground ball because they can't reach them. And as I used to say there, Tommy, to Jogger Dial up there a few years ago, it's very easy shorten a long one, but I have yet to see a boy that can lengthen a short one. But anyway, just clipping back to those, and I won't replay them there, but, just looking at them, the first one, there was several things there. The fender was going nowhere, right? And the forwards fouled him. They shouldn't have fouled him because he wasn't going to clear that ball any distance. As soon as you foul him, then the ball is up the field. Then the long ball, and guys will tell you that the long ball is gone. Well, you watch more of these videos and you will see these guys are all Ireland champions for the last 2 years. And I can tell you for certain the long ball is not gone. They don't even look sometimes. Just letter it up the field and see what happens. Right? Right. Both teams there. The striking. Look, the Schlockneil lads. Excellent striking. So your team could be missing scores. They could be not even getting into the scoring opportunity because their striking is poor. So highlighting the ability of these guys to strike. The needless foul there. Okay, the other one, they won't all be blown, but if a few of them are blown, what's the point in dragging a lad's hand in the middle of a ruck? You're just giving them a point. Right, I'll move on to the next one. Damien, you all right time there, or you have to slip?
No, we're good, Martin. Go ahead, yeah, no problem.
Okay. Now, right, too long. Okay, this one now, guys. Just a little read on the left first, just to see what we're looking out for. Again, 2 long balls, right, and hit maybe without looking. Just lurry it up the field. I'd be a great believer in it. And the lower the grade of your team, the more I would emphasise just get the ball and hit it up the field, lads. Because the more you delay with it, the more you dally with it, the greater risk of a score coming against you. Now, even the top teams get caught. But my club down here, we're going to get caught if we're messing with ball. And that's the senior team. Now, going on to the junior team, they'll be destroyed. Now, bring that down to the under 12s or the 14s or the 16s. So my take on it would be 9 times out of 10, unless the strike is not on, put it up to the far end of the field. Number 2 here is a great run and a strike. However, I think it's Brendan Rodgers comes up the field and a brilliant strike. But after it then, the Schlockneil lads are a little bit complacent and they allow a quick ball out and nearly a scored under end of the field. Touch, pass, strike. Okay, we'll roll it away here and we might come back in it.
Avoidance under Shamroga.
There's the long ball.
Now,
there's danger there.
It
wasn't a score, but it was danger. Now watch this. She goes again.
The Schlockneil, Shochuin, Farhad, and Sheikh TJ. It's all Fenley, then Mishach avoided! Avoidance under Shamroga. No McGuigan and Dom McGuigan.
No, so that was Michael Fenley. And ball came up, he didn't even look, just down the field again. And okay, why? Fenley is up there, TJ is up there, but there's guys on every team. You have a good strong catcher. And he mightn't even have to finish the ball. He'll grab it, lay it off to somebody else's goal. So what I'm saying is, these boys that are all Ireland champions, they're doing that kind of stuff. Okay, I'll roll it on here now again.
Stegenson and Vertica. Stig Augustine Sherach. The Schlockneil, Shochuin, Farhad, and Sheikh TJ. It's all Fenley, then Mishach avoided! On Solar, she knows stuff a quick Colin Fenley, August Bear, she on tactic at all.
That's for striking.
Schlockneil. And Cassidy,
that's for striking.
Brian Cassidy, left point, August on the right. Oh, Schlockneil. Yeah, on the top of the Garfad, scoring to go Brian Cassidy, smocked into stuff she, August Dira Coran Trasnon. So Tosh Limmer to reach, Count Hapwick Toka, Egg Oshin O'Doherty, Count Sahan Son Brendan Rodgers, Dintagamahega Rodgers, Shochuin Rodgers or Relish, Hoshe Gelu, oh sure,
that's for
oh Vallahale, Ha Rodgers, a third score in Sparroida, score Dreachtul, score Unta, oh Brendan Rodgers. Well, Dortu Gopro and Sheen Arira, Lewis Lostrick, Brendan Rodgers on Sheen, August Kyle
Shane Cosantori Balya Hale agus ní raibh aon ragre po
No,
stuff.
there's complacency.
Dá their whole score. Gáin is fihead mehe.
Look what happens to a quick pass.
Inside Ronan Corcoran. Untitled Captain Michael Fenley. Fenley inish.
Now, you know, what happened there? Allowing the boys to get the short puck out, not picking them up out the field. And again, the Shamrocks, the quick pass, if that was my club, the boy wouldn't pass it. Now, up she goes. Now, I don't know what happened after that, but you're at the very least creating a scoring opportunity there.
Evan Shefflin.
Look, loose mark.
No, Evan Shefflin, draw Connor Walsh and so. Walsh is. I can't say Colin. Coleman did shade Scott and son in her own ring.
Now, on that one, guys, you know, what am I seeing there? Well, I'm seeing the ball play down to Owen Reid on the wing, and seeing the other guy, you know, Shamrock's lad, he stands outside him. But Reid gives it to him immediately. Man in a better position gives it to him. Now, a lot has to happen there for that to happen. Okay, the ball is played down to Owen Reid. But the other fella, the wing forward, he has to get himself down the field and say, right, Owen is maybe in trouble. I'll be standing outside him, and he'll fire the ball out to me. There'll be nobody on me over the bar. I call that number 5 there, running outside the man for the pass. Now, number 6, if I see there's 3 men around and they still foul him. Now, I don't know who does it, but let's find it out.
So I get Walsh. Walsh and Keen.
Right. There's the back. Oh, yeah.
And so Hussa and the Shamrock August Queen to Allin.
Like that example was, you don't always have to run inside the man. You know, and players gravitate to running in towards the goals, whereas these guys run outside them, almost like the rugby, and get the ball passed back. Very simple. Usually when a lad runs outside the forward like that, there's rarely anybody picking him up. Now, of course, there should be.
O'Brien Cody on Tarnacown over Barra Corcoran. Gairi Gamailo
3 around him.
Doesn't the Shamrock August Neil the foil more on Ernely Roddy Fadison.
No, Neil thought she'd come forward a galore August taking she'd go ill farce.
So no TJ, I'm Egg Shane McGuigan gone out.
That.
The Gama and Son of Mail and the Carnoig August Cormac McKenna Hogan Council. The in count have to cook against shoot Sean O'Cassidy let count more Griord August Lesh and there Famar be against the head.
Now, to me, that last one that stood out a mile. You know, and that's all Ireland champions being complacent and allowing a ball to be struck to a loose man, and then because the Schlockneil boys are good strikers over the bar. Now, if the Schlockneil lads or the Castlecormer lads are not good strikers, there's no big problem. So the message there is the striking. And I would say every single training session I would ever do would start with striking, because the better you get at it. And I remember again, we're after talking about Offaly a minute ago, I remember Dermot Healy telling me all those years ago that every training session, 10 minutes striking at the start, shooting or striking, he told me. And he told me there'd be 10 minutes of hurling the ball on the ground, you know. And how do you become good strikers? By constantly practicing it. Okay, so I think we'll let this one on again now.
Well, Cunnick on Dyer and on Kate
Hoggis Now, he missed the blooming jab lift. Now, half the time they're missing the jab lift. They've had time to slow that down. He was trying to rise it with the heel of his hurl, not the toe. And even inter-county guys are doing that, lads. Right? They're not rising with the toe of the hurl. Missing that rise could have cost them that match. There's so many little things that cost them the match. And that's what the whole night is about, improving your team. Oops, sorry, you know. That jumped away me there. Let's see, can I finish that one? I think it's around there somewhere.
And score all in. You know, Mullen Fosa and Yoig, and none of this Shuchwin Brian Cody.
Now.
Brian Cody.
For that.
Brewer Shoe, Douglas Brewer Cormac McKenna. The Horlogan saw.
Now, watch the yellow helmets.
Going on Tunnedy, Conor McAllister, Dirga Hardach. Cody Arish, Cody Leshan pass live. Cody Machansa.
Watch the yellow helmet, look at him on the right. Look,
Fenley
inside. Look.
Denegan in the end, or a Stig, Hogan Fenley and
now, your man there, lads, inside in the right, Owen Reid, he was on the ball initially, then he ran out the field, and then he looped around, and he was standing in there at the edge of the square, and the boys didn't see him. That's a savage example of a forward move and a forward saying, right, where can I go? Where am I going to be most dangerous? And it's equally so a savage example of whoever was marking him not keeping an eye on him. That guy got, I don't know how many goals. That guy is 38 years of age. And he got in the semi-final and the county final, he probably picked 3 or 4 goals between the 2 games. And I have seen him standing on his own while you could be counting 5. Next minute, bang, because guy's not marking him. Okay, I'll drive on here now. The next one. Right, what am I looking at here roughly? Number 1, great defence, midfield, vision, pace, and a goal. Right, number 2, great defence. Again, I'm emphasising it, a long ball, a jab lift. And this is where the jab lift came off. If a guy wasn't good at the jab lift, that chance was gone. Support play, a goal, there's so much in it, and a player unmarked. So this is what we're watching for. Number 3, if we can find it, hard work, a long ball, more work, unselfish, and the score. Now, the inter-county boys will be unselfish, but the county boys can be selfish, or the club boys can be selfish. Okay, I'll roll it on there and we'll stop it if we can. This is not the best joke for stopping and starting, but...
Tommy Walsh tidies up though when it comes off the hand of Brian Hogan. Henry Shefflin central to everything the Kilkenny are doing as well. Michael Fenley showing the composure to lay the ball off at the right time, finding Richie Power. Richie Power looks to the right corner and asks Conal Fenley to get onto him. Fenley coming in around the end line. Conal Fenley now, things are opening up here. Lovely bit of play. Super goal by Conal Fenley. You can see the difficulty that Dublin are having trying to get the ball out of defence. Morris O'Brien goes long off. Beautiful catch by Paul Murphy. What a game. This guy is playing as a cornerback for the Kilkenny men.
Break, that's the break.
Ball breaks into the path of TJ Reid into Henry Shefflin. In acres of space. Shefflin shot. Shefflin goal. The man. It's a touch, but out comes Paul Murphy. This guy has played very well. TJ Reid winning the ball. Makes a little bit of space for himself and then sends it in again to this full forward line.
Break again, please.
Knocked away by Shoot. Breaks back to Richie Power. Richie Power, lovely control to get inside the challenge. Gets the ball off to Richie Hogan. Hogan thought about laying it off, then turns onto his right hand side, and Richie Hogan strikes it high. Gets the pass away, but intercepted. Delightfully there by Noel Hickey. Gets it out to Michael Fennelly. At least Plunkett brings a little bit of threat to that inside line. Long ball upfield, breaks to Colin Fennelly. Now things are opening at the other end. Fennelly off into Larkin. Larkin shot. Great save by Gary Maguire. Oh, top his head right now. Now, can Dublin rise to the challenge? First time that they've got a goal against Kilkenny in nearly 5.5 championship matches, you could say. Meanwhile, at the other end, Richie Power up to Michael Rice. Oh, Michael Rice rises to the challenge. But I think that's going to be changed right now. Looks like Shane Ryan is about to come into the game for Dublin. Meanwhile, down at the other end, Owen Larkin trying to come in the hard way with that ball, picked up by Richie Power. The ease with which Kilkenny can do things.
Martin.
Direct contrast to Dublin. Ball finds his way.
Martin.
Shefflin tapping it.
Yeah, the sound is good, but the videos aren't travelling too well.
Okay, this one is not brilliant quality. Can you see anything on it?
I'm not sure if everyone else is the same to say, but I think the videos aren't travelling too well.
Okay, lads, anyone else there? Can anyone see them reasonably well, or are they brutal? Just one or two, you answer me there.
They're freezing there the whole time.
Okay. Right, well, look at, are there any of them at all working? No?
Same for me.
Yeah, no, some of the earlier ones were, Martin, but it just, the sound is perfect, but I just bring it to your attention there, they're not travelling too well, no.
Right, we're more or less at the end of them anyway. So, right, look at, what was going on in them anyway, guys, was, you know, sometimes it's a bit of a myth that these top class county players, their heads up hurling the whole time and they're picking out lads the whole time. But what I'm trying to emphasise there is so many times there, they get the ball and they drive it. And I just remember Tommy Welch saying it so many times. He says, you know, most times you're lucky to get the ball. You don't have time. You're lucky to be able to let hit it. You don't have time to start doing all this fancy stuff. That just get it and drive it up. But when it's hit up, lads, what was shown up there was the guy coming in for the break, right? By running in for the break. The next thing was happening was the player gets possession without thinking twice, just immediately passes off to a guy that's running in support. So there's a huge amount in that. First of all, the guy that has it has to be prepared to pass it. But then more importantly, there has to be somebody running for it. And I just know in my own club, it's very, very hard to get lads to do that. very, very hard to get him to give that pass immediately, because if you delay it for a fraction of a second, these guys are closed down. And these are all pretty simple little things. Okay, I'll just see how the next one is. Right, I'm not so sure the quality of that will be any better. I'll read out through what we're looking for, right? And then I'll just give it a quick flash, see does she play. Out in front again, right? Out in front of your man, and the touch has to be good. The long ball again, long clearances, reading breaks, long ball, long strike. I just let her run. It's only 30 seconds anyway. I would see what she's like.
From the left corner on Cathal Barrett, so changes as expected on both teams.
Right.
Shane McGrath getting that puck out, down into the corner here. Dropped and then recovered by John O'Dwyer. Bubbles looking to hit in his...
Okay, Damien, I see I have a second down machine here myself. I can see that that's not, for whatever reason. Last week they were going all right. I'd skip on from that
From the left.
Right, we'll try this one now as well. I think it's the last one. But in this one, this was Napiersic and Cushendall there a couple of years ago. Okay, and basically what was happening was, and this was Napiersic, I think, a short clearance and a score conceded. Next guy, he wouldn't pass the ball and he got caught and the score came off it. Next guy was a guy who went with one hand to pick a ball, missed it, and there was a score and a foul, and then a short puck out and a disaster. So I'll just see what she run for you.
And Trump, Sinead 2-0, Nachra Tastal, or $1 and Trump. I was around there. Honey Mission Jim Patvi, Gesture Cooling again in Morella, Trump Tastal with the brain, I was Honey Coolat. Tronish and Gestions and Trump, like Alex Delargay will find Ramon.
The Carney and Shin.
Okay, she's not running base. I think it's a Microsoft thing. There's where he wouldn't pass. Okay. Not painted direct in your head with that. That's not working for you. This is one I took off of the telly the other night, just with my phone, and it was basically Limerick. Nicky Quaid took a short puck out to the cornerback. Cornerback tried to thread it out to the wing back. Shammy Canlon broke it down, and they got a goal. I'll run it and see does it work, but you probably have seen it anyway. And that's the point I'm making here. That's Limerick, who, you know, they have a very good chance of becoming All-Ireland champions, and one of the best keepers in the country. Short puck out, two of the best defenders in the country, and working through the lines didn't work for them. Now you bring that down to under 14 in Castlecomer or above in wherever you boys are in Castle Pollard, and it's going to be 20 times worse.
And bringing Sean Finn in with him, who's been marking him, and Finn looks sharper today than the last night. I have to say, there's been a few question marks about that full back line though, of what they're missing. Here's Coleman,
right, they're not
driving forward, beautifully inside, an opportunity.
Right, they're not playing, but you probably saw it. The last one I have here was the bit of ground hurling, and you probably have seen it if you saw the match. Two quick strikes by Limerick on the ground. You know, that didn't happen by accident. They're obviously training to do that. So just see will it run. Chances are it won't run now.
Garrod Hagerty over there without the stick, but he's a footballer as well with St. Patrick's and Limerick. Cian Lynch wallops it forward up there towards the substitute. Pat Reiner got that last score, keeps it in play, down into the corner. Aaron.
I don't know what goes on, lads. You know, last week the videos were running grand. So look at, we'll move on from there now. That's the last of them, and we'll get a little chat now in a moment. So look at what I would be saying to you there is, and I'd even say I do this on paper. You could say I do it in your head, but I'd nearly say I do it on paper. And I have a lot of stuff there. Make up a list of things yourself. And I'm saying, right, have we a problem with the following? Have we a problem with raising the ball? And remember, missing one can cost you a match. Have we a problem with handling? Are we dropping ball? Now, hooking and blocking stand out a mile. Are our players able to hook and block? If they're not, I guarantee you are going to improve your team so much if you put serious work into hooking and blocking. Give me a player that can hook and block, and you can put him on anybody. You know, a player that's able to run and can hook and block, put him on Joe Canning, and the chances of Joe are, you know, take Owen Kelly, or not Owen Kelly, the Clare man again. What's his name, Damien? Jesus. Head is gone. Brain freeze.
Tony Kelly.
Oh.
Tony Kelly.
Tony. Thanks, mate. You know, if you have a player that's able to run and is excellent at hooking and blocking, the chances of Tony Kelly coming off with 10 points from playing a match are slim. Okay? Accurate striking, right? The discipline, big one. Have we a problem with it? Unnecessary fouling, dissent, complaining instead of getting on with a game. That's a big one. You know, by his mouthing to the ref, and while he's doing it, the boys are taking a free, and suddenly there's a lad loose. Red cards, obvious. Reluctant to pass the ball. Awareness, not pushing up on the opponents. Right, you're standing off your men consistently, giving them an easy shot, point after point. 2 up, in for breaks. We mentioned these. Fall on in when attacking. There's a big one. And that's just a bad habit. That a player is going in with a ball and everybody else says, he's gone, he'll score it. And they don't bother following him in. And suddenly the goalie blocks it, or it comes off the upright, and we're not in for the rebound. And that's a habit thing. And you can definitely change that. Picking up the receiver of a pass. There's a huge one. You know, Damien has the ball. I mentioned it earlier. I'm closing him down. He can do nothing with it when he pass it. There's no way there should be a loose man out there waiting to receive that pass. This is where this short game can be cut down. And to be very fair to Waterford at the weekend, you know, they sorted that as well as any team could. They pushed up on the guy with the ball. They pushed up on the guy that was looking for it. And when you do that, this fancy short game breaks down very, very quickly. Now, a genuine work rate. That's not pretending to work. That's really chasing a lad. Chasing a guy when your tongue is hanging out. Chasing him even though you're fairly sure you won't catch him, but you're still going after them. Dropping the head, we mentioned it. Okay? So look, that's just a little checklist that you might consider marking up. A little bit of a summary. No silly fouls. And I don't mind the honest to God foul. You know, fouls will happen. Players will collide. Players will go on full-blooded for a ball and a ref will blow the whistle and you don't know who fouled. I don't mind that. But the silly one, tugging the jersey, holding the hands, silly ones. Extra effort, right? What are these extra efforts? A hurl up, attempted hook or block. Not even a successful one. Just an attempt. An attempt can be the difference. An attempted block. Chasing a lost cause, a support and run, covering a danger, encouraging a teammate, lads. You know, I make a mess of a ball. Damien has 2 choices. Well, he has 3. He can say nothing, or he can insult me, or he can say, Martin, don't worry about that. That helps. That helps big time because it lifts my head and I'll go stronger for the next ball. A little interesting one here, and I just use a couple of little analogies sometimes. You know, back in school, I was a teacher there for a while, and I'd always say to the lads when they're doing the maths test, don't worry about the hard ones, guys. You know, get the easy ones right. Make sure all the adding sums are properly, that you're not losing marks there. Spend a bit of time on the easy ones. Get them right. Okay, don't rush them. But then, if you don't get the hard ones right, no big deal. Now, the same in hurling. Practice all the skills. Master the ones that are most necessary, that are needed most often. And make sure, for example, of the easy frees. Don't worry about the ones from the sideline. Practice the skills you're weak at, certainly. But make sure to also practice what you're good at. Like if I'm good at something, God Almighty, make certain I stay good at it. You know, if I'm a great guy to hook and block and chase and suddenly allow myself to become unfit, if I'm a good striker and I stop practicing it and then in a match I'm missing a few. So, you know, it's very important to make certain you remain good at the good things as well as working on the bad things. Another little analogy. And again, I'm choosing a car here. You know, the basics are not basic. They're vital. You can have that Ferrari there. You know, cost whatever. I don't know how much they cost. Damien has a few of them. He might tell me. But if you don't have the key, it doesn't matter what car you have. You know, if you don't have petrol, and that could be a bottle of petrol and make that car go. No petrol, it won't go. If one wheel, you don't have a wheel, or even you have a puncture, that'll stop that car. Steering wheel, brakes, engine. No, the decorations, this is what I call, you know, the fancy coach and all these highfalutin tactics, etc., that are not really important. You manage without those. You know, that Ferrari, it'll go without the windows or the wipers or the radio. The colour doesn't matter. It'll go without seats, go without doors, go without a boot or a heater. But it won't go without the key or the petrol. Now, okay, so we'll fire into any more little questions there, lads. Damien, you still there? Yep.
Yeah, I might just come in there, Martin, for a second while the lads are gathering their thoughts on the questions. I just think it's an important point again when you're, you know, on tonight's webinar, team improving your team, right, or your club. I think it's important that there's a lot of gurus out there now, and I don't mean like strength and conditioning is very important. Don't get me wrong, and I've been in that game myself. but there's too many lads eating into the hurling time. And I see it creeping into clubs now more and more and more. Like when you go to the field, if you're well planned, it's the hurling the ball for the hour and a half. You can do all your fitness work through the ball and the hurdle. You don't have to be going off doing stamina runs. You don't have to be going off doing speed. You don't have to be going off doing speed endurance. All of that stuff can be done through the hurling. And maybe, you know, it's just important to point out there the little small-sided games. You know, the traditional thing there is when we're in the field and there's 28 and we go 2 halves and we play the number. Or if there's 22 and you go 2 11s or whatever. But I think a lot of the fitness work can be done there in 3v3s, 2v2s, even 5v3s. So the 3 that have the ball and the 5 that have to keep the ball in the grid marked out, that's savage work for the 3. And then you rotate that and everyone gets an opportunity to have the tongue out, as the fella says, and do the lung busters. But don't neglect the small-sided games. Get into the habit of doing your speed endurance through small-sided games. Get into the habit of doing your fitness work with the ball. And be careful of anyone coming to the clubs. I see an awful lot of and I'm not being disrespectful saying this now, and I've done it myself, lads. I've gone to clubs, but I see a lot of journeymen, and you know, the players decide at the start of the year, or maybe in October, who they're going to have for the following year, and they're allowed to run that, and some of the club officials then just fall in line. And well, the first thing I'd say, that's 10 grand. So who's coming up with the 10,000? And we all know it's a volunteer association, but this goes down as expenses and the whole lot. But that puts the club on the back foot straight away with the top team. So I'd be saying, trust ourselves a little bit more, lads, in the clubs. You know, trust the guys that are there in your membership, and bring in guest coaches every now and again to freshen up. I'd see nothing wrong with the club. Trusting the management team, good men in their own club, getting the players to buy in, and maybe putting on a guest coach once a fortnight or a guest coach every Friday night. Or even someone just comes on a Friday night and we'll do all the rest of the work ourselves. But I think the horse has bolted on that one, but maybe we should rescue it by having a chat about it. But we shouldn't be deciding in the clubs in the country that the first thing we do is we have to come up with 10 grand to pay a lad to come in from the outside. He leaves no development and he's gone the following year if the players don't like him. So that, Martin, and the fitness through the hurling, I think, is vital. And don't get me wrong here for a minute. I'm for strength and condition. I'm for having your body ready. I'm preventing injury and getting yourself strong. But I think too much of this has been eaten into the hurling time.
Thanks for that, Damien. Excellent advice there, lads. Damien, Kyo there, have you a question? And Joe, we'll get you after that, Joe.
Just wondering, any advice for how do you coach lads on the sideline? I suppose from what they shout on, like you have your main coach of the team and maybe a couple of selectors, but then everyone around that shouting in from the sideline at young lads or even the younger adult players as well.
Yeah, Damien, I take your point on it big time. Okay, 2 things. The first thing I would try, and I probably fail at it, is to tell everybody on the sideline, our supporters, they're not to be given in instructions for a start. There's only whoever the person is over the team has designated. Now, you won't be able to control that, but hugely, I will most definitely tell the players who they're to listen to only, and listen to nobody else. And, you know, I mean, you have the scenario there where you're standing there maybe half back, and you're standing in a little bit from the sideline where your man is standing. You might be 5 or 10 yards off him, but you're watching him, and you're covering the centre forward a bit as well. And you're ready, you know, well, if the ball happens to come out to the wing, you'll be on him like a light. But you have some clown on the line then balling at you to mark up. You know, and if you mark up on that occasion, maybe you're leaving a big gap up the middle. So I suppose as players have to get used to and have to be really positively told, ignore everybody else. Now, unfortunately, especially by the time they get to adulthood, if they're not able to do that, ignore people, you know, they're at nothing really. Is that half answering it for you, Damien?
Yeah, I suppose it's easier when you have a big crowd. When you've only 10 lads there, it's actually harder because the single voice stands out.
And you have to go, look, I've done it, I'm sure Damien has done it. I have to go to lads on the line in my own club sometimes, and boys you can tell them nicely first couple of times just to stop, you're confusing the players. And if it comes to it, you're just going to have to tell them, just get out behind the railings there, shut it. Okay, there's different ways of tackling it. Maybe you get someone, chairperson of the club, to take it on, but it is a blight in a big way.
Yeah, Martin, it's a good idea there, Damien. To I suppose you're back to building club culture here. It's a good idea, I know, and you're probably talking about over enthusiastic fathers, and sometimes over enthusiastic mothers can be worse than over enthusiastic fathers as well. But they're passionate is one thing positive you could take out of it. If they didn't care and they weren't getting all emotional, that might be worse. But I think there's a chance there of meeting the parents. We coach the children now. If you're talking about kids and youth, I'm not talking about adults here, but children and youth, we coach those, and we don't meet their parents at all. We say, how's it going when they're dropping off, or we're saying good luck when they're heading away. We should maybe have pull them in 2 or 3 times in the year, explain to them what you're trying to do, how you're trying to do it, and will they give you the cooperation. And I found that work now in our club a little bit. Everyone has the same problems, and now it doesn't go away, but it helps. Addressing them, bringing them in, making them part of the decision making. So if that helps, Damien, I just said I'd share that with you.
Yeah,
thanks for that.
Great. Thanks, lads.
Damien, Joe Cleary. Joe, had you a question there? No. Okay, guys. Anyone else want to pop anything into it there? Okay, Darren.
Brian. Yeah, no, and look.
Sorry, Brian Murray there. Brian has a question there, Darren.
Yeah,
you hold
100. Yeah, go away.
Go ahead, Brian.
Sorry, lads. There, we probably all have the same problem in all our clubs with young lads on PlayStations and that stuff. Like, I've had problems with lads maybe playing PlayStation 4, 5, 6 hours a day, and then we come to play training. Then after, they're impossible to deal with. Like, I know how can we get out of that situation? You know.
Wow. Oh, wow.
Hey, give that one over to Darren McGee there, Martin.
Darren, you answer that one there, will you?
Yeah, yeah, no problem. Look, I mean, it is in the culture and the way it is. Modern society is, with PlayStations. And look, that's a parenting rule. Like, I suppose, you control the controllables, and no more, as what Damien said, is like the culture that you're creating there. And I suppose creating maybe a platform and exposure to fields, what is the accessibility of kids getting to fields, you know what I mean? What's the background? So I suppose like talking to parents, talking to kids, and, I call it the triangle of trust, the coach, the player, and the parent. And, if you're going to go on a journey, and I suppose breeding habits, and more so than lockdown itself, we had, so many kind of videos that have come up, like, skills coaching. I suppose, is there something that as a coach you can kind of give them that little booklet that they can go home and do a little bit of practice in, and maybe spend, challenge them to video themselves, see if they get, 100 touches or, 50 touches or something like that before next week, or, something similar like that. So if you can kind of create an environment, that they want to kind of improve, they might spend a little bit more with the ball in their hand, striking it, than I suppose on the PlayStation. Like, if you create a culture within the group itself, it might be something, that they could feed into, and it could help, and even talking to parents as well at the same time. Is it a common problem? It depends on what age group it as well. So talk to the parents, having information evening on it. I think information is crucial, because if it's rampant within a team and they're all playing each other till all hours, and whatever the platforms are that they play against each other or play these games on now, I suppose it could be something that you could look to as a mindfulness and talking to parents, depending what age group it is. I'm sure there's different things that you can do. So that's my tuppence worth, I suppose.
Thanks for that, Darren. Brian, just now that I've had a little few moments to think about it, I suppose if I go back and look when I was growing up, I would say, you know, back through the years, there's been quite a few changes. For example, you know, we didn't drink much water. It was nearly a sign of weakness to be taking a drink. The nutrition, that didn't really register either. Rest and recovery didn't register either. And any description of seriously doing, we'll say, let it be core work or a bit of gym work. And in a very short few years that I have come through, I have seen players that were absolutely alien to these things with a little bit of education, little by little taking them on board. And, you know, now the players that really want to be as good as they can, they're listening to those things, you know, to the degree that every youngster was going around with a blooming bottle of water, even going to mass, which was taking it too far. But I think it just has to be up on that list of those few inches that are going to make the difference to you. And I think definitely with the players that are serious,